This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Not even a flipped semi-truck on I-75 can keep us from podcasting. Thank you for downloading another episode on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I am the Doc, John McAroon. Joining me, only 45 minutes late to the scheduled recording time, my cousin, Adam the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz?
We're going to start this off with an impromptu Jock Slams. Just a few things that I absolutely hate. 1. Truck drivers who don't know how to drive their freaking trucks and flip them over on I-75, making me 45 minutes freaking late for our show. Mind you, this might be the longest show that we ever put together. And now we've got to sit there and we've got to go do some cutting because buttholes don't know how to drive their trucks. On top of all that, things I hate as well. People who stop at green lights. I'm getting off the freeway right there at the 14-mile exit, and you know I drive fast, especially when I'm in a hurry because I'm 45 minutes late because some asshole doesn't know how to drive his semi-truck. So some stupid broad in front of me decides to stop at a green light instead of just driving through and making the turn. So I almost plow into her.
Why?
Bitch, get out the way.
Why did you
Get
stop?
out the way. Because she's an idiot. That's why. Because she's stupid. All right? Number 2, right? You see everybody either having to get off or they're stuck in gridlock traffic. So at this point, you now have to make a decision on the freeway, right? You either have to get off with everybody else or you just got to suck it up and you just got to go forward. I decided to get off the freeway. I somehow finagled my way over, got off. Why do I have assholes sitting there driving, trying to cut me off? Like, what are you doing? Are you stupid? Do you want to cause another accident? It's bad enough we're all in this situation because some dillhole up there sat there and decided to flip their truck over. Now you want to sit there and you almost want to ram into me? Get the hell out of the way. Can't stand you. I can't stand you. You don't know how to drive. I hate you. I want to punch you in the mouth. On top of all of that, I have a job where I have a boss who's a total boob. And if you work in anywhere where your boss is just a total idiot and basically sets you up to fail left and right, you'll understand my pain. I'm really good at taking chicken shit and turning it into chicken salad. I do it every day, and I do a damn good job at it. I do it so good. I feel like my boss purposely hamstrings me just so he can see if I can come up with a miracle and serve it up on a platter for him. Let me give you a little example. I'm floating around the skies this morning, sitting there videotaping stuff. Mind you, I've got a camera that is so standard def. Everything now is high def, but I've got a camera that's so standard def. It's at least from 1980.
This is so bad.
Yeah, it's horrible, Adam. I'm telling you, it's awful. It's brutal. All right? The focus doesn't really work on it, and now the zoom is sticking. And the zoom has been sticking for a month. Guess who knows about it? My boss. Yeah, he knows all about it. Guess what? We've got these assholes in town, right? And they come out and they're like, oh, well, you know what you should do? You should stick a heater in front of it, and it's going to warm up the gimbals. And for those of you who don't know, the gimbals are basically what allow the camera to sit there and move and kind of roll in and out. It'll warm it up, and we'll get that grease nice and good for you. So that way you can just sit there and we won't have that sticking problem. You're an idiot. I'm going to tell you why you're an idiot. Because this makes absolutely zero logical sense whatsoever. Here's the deal. The camera worked in the wintertime, right? When it was ice cold out. When we were going up and we were flying, when it was like 12 degrees down here, but up in the friendly skies, it was like -5. The camera worked fine. So the cold weather doesn't affect it, you idiot, okay? The zoom is busted. It needs to be refurbished. That's what the issue is. So now as the weather starts to warm up here in Michigan, and we're dealing with 50 and 60 degree days, as you get up in the sky early in the morning, it's usually right around 35, maybe 40 degrees as the sun comes out. Today, guess what happened? The zoom got stuck. And guess what I was zoomed in on? I couldn't tell you because everything was blurry because the focus was all out of whack too. Sat there, flew around for 20 some odd minutes, working on the zoom, trying to get it to go in and out, in and out, in and out. It was like some dude humping on a freaking hooker, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. Finally, I was like, it's busted. I don't know what to do. I tried turning it on, tried turning it off. I tried everything, tried to troubleshoot it for 25 minutes. Finally, my pilot was like, yeah, we'll just go touchdown and we'll just shut off all the E&G equipment. E&G, by the way, is all the electronics. So we sit there, we touch down, shut everything off, boot it back up, and it sticks again, right? Nothing wants to work. Finally, I'm sitting there just jostling on it, in and out again, like me humping on a hooker, and finally it starts to work. Then I get on a conference call with these guys. I've got emails going around left and right, and everybody just wants to put a space heater in front of a camera. Idiots. Everybody's idiots. I hate everybody. By the way, we've got a great show. We're going to talk about some Motor City Kitties, some Fierce Tigers talk, some Lions. It's Wrestlemania week, so that's what I got going on for me. That's going to make me happy. And we've got basketball. Pistons suck. There you go. Newsflash. What's up with you?
I might argue that this WrestleMania might be one of the most disappointing ones of all time.
Oh, it's going to be brutal. It's going to be absolutely brutal.
And we'll talk about that and why we think the WrestleMania card could be a disastrous card. But there could be a few surprises.
Bunch of lazy booking.
Exactly. And also, we'll talk about what really is causing us to not be happy with this card. But let's start with the Detroit Pistons.
I feel bad for you. You got to deal with this for the next however long this show goes. I'm sorry.
Hey, Angry Adam makes for great podcasting, man. Now the whole world knows it, too, on Facebook, Instagram, the 5 other ways we can share this very fine podcast. So, hey, it's all good, man. But for me, I feel bad. I kind of feel gross because on Tuesday night, I was watching the Pistons, and I'm in full tank mode.
I thought we were going to go somewhere else with that.
No.
Like you walked in
I don't
on your
feel gross
sister
on
in the
that.
shower
No.
or whatever.
I don't feel gross about too much, but I felt gross because I'm a diehard Detroit sports
You
fan.
heard it here. He doesn't mind watching his sister shower.
So I'm watching the Pistons, and they're playing Miami in a game that everybody thinks is super important for the Pistons in their playoff hopes, right? And I'm thinking, why is everybody all butthurt? Why is everybody like rooting on the Pistons when it's in their best interest for them to lose? Because they get higher up in the lottery, and maybe, just maybe, they inch up and somehow finagle their way into a top 10 pick. And they've been losing, which is what we want. Now, whether it's intended or not, we can talk all about that, whether we think the team has quit on SVG or not. But for me, I was watching that game, and I'm going, why are the Pistons competing so hard? I get it. You've rested Reggie Jackson. You have a team now that really isn't good enough to compete. Let's just go and lose out. You're playing Miami. Go out there and don't perform. So I'm rooting for them to lose, and they come back in the second half. And I'm watching intently in the fourth quarter. And unfortunately, the Pistons lost, and it was a tip-in. It was devastating. Everyone was really sad and frustrated. I can understand that people do want to compete. But for the long-term best interest of the Detroit Pistons, losing these last 5 games against whoever, whether it be garbage teams or not, and they have been garbage teams when you look at it, this has not been a bad thing. They're sliding now in the Eastern Conference. They're 10th, I believe. There's really not really too much of a statistical chance that they can climb back unless they win out and a bunch of teams start losing ahead of them. So we can dive into whether or not the Pistons can come back or whether or not SVG has lost his team or whether or not we should fire him. But this is good. I don't see any problem with the Pistons losing, and I feel bad and gross because I was kind of rooting when Miami tipped it back in. I was like, okay, good. Let's keep this losing going because this is the only way with teams, with caps, you cannot just get superstar players here. You can't wine and dine a superstar athlete in any way to make him come to Detroit compared to anywhere else with nice weather. You just can't do it. So what is the way you build a team? Through the draft. Draft 10th this year, draft hopefully 10th next year, and figure out a way where the agenda needs to be TANK. Tank should be the motto for the next 18 months with this team.
This isn't a free agent destination, so you're not getting any superstar. You're not getting high-profile athlete. You're just not going to do it. It's just the way it works, right?
TANK. How do we make it happen all day?
We're not New York. We're not Chicago. I could probably sell you Boston. I could sell you Cleveland because you get to go play with LeBron. I could maybe sell you Toronto because that's a bigger metropolitan area. They seem like they have their stuff together. We're not Atlanta. They have nice weather. Look, we're Detroit, right? We've got people who don't know how to drive semi-trucks and flip gravel haulers over on I-75. That's what we deal with here.
In nice weather.
Right. That's what we deal with. That's what we got, all right? So you're right. The only way to sit there and build this team and do anything productive is the tank. Tank. That's all you can do, right? Go out there, get yourself a top 10 draft pick. Hopefully you hit a superstar. That's all you can hope for at this point, right? I think the bigger issue with this team, and I think the thing that people most want to talk about right now, though, is it really seems like this team has quit on Stan Van Gundy. And do you trust Stan Van Gundy with that top 10 draft pick this year, next year, going forward? Is he the guy who you want to run this organization? And that's where I think we need to start to look, because we could say that the coach is the issue, and it seems like the coach might be the issue. But the coach can only do so much with the players. Well, then who brought you the players? Well, it's the same guy. It's the coach and the general manager. They're the same person. It's Stan Van Gundy. It's the Ron Jeremy lookalike. And look, I love Stan Van Gundy. I love him. I think he's great. I like how candid he is. I like that he sits there and basically takes a flamethrower to the media, and he just tells you how it is. He'll sit there and will roast his players in front of everybody, and I like that. I like it because you always know where you stand. And the good coaches will sit there and push you, and the better players will arise to that occasion. You know what? We don't have very good players. We've got a bunch of soft players on this team, right? And talking about that game against Miami, I mean, this is just a microcosm of what this season is. Andre Drummond just had to sit there and basically pull down a rebound. He missed it. And he sits there, shrugs his shoulders, and he looks sad. He looks like somebody pooped in his oatmeal. And he's upset that he's got to sit there and eat it. You know what, Andre? Man up. Become a grown-ass man. You look like a gigantic child out there. And he plays poor on defense. He plays poor on offense. He's awful from the line. You know, you got Reggie Jackson, who's just been basically befuddles everybody. He's a total disaster. He's so bad that he's getting benched right now, and there's talks about shutting him down for the season. And he's talking about how he's a shell of what he used to be. Well, you know what? This team, to start the season, played pretty good with Ish Smith in the lineup, brought you back, and you all of a sudden seem like a gigantic cancer. They've got a ton of money that they might spend on a guy like KCP. They really need to figure out what they're going to do there. The most of your leadership comes from Morris, you know, and he's like a $4 or $5 million a year player. So if you're bringing in $20 million, are you really listening to that guy? Are you? Probably not. And again, this goes back to the guy who's coaching the team and the guy who's bringing these players in and setting up these contracts and signing these guys to these deals. So it all goes right back to Stan Van Gundy. So do you want Stan Van Gundy here? Do you want him to sit there, and do you want him to have that top 10 draft pick? Do you want him to sit there and get into the lotto and hopefully he has enough ping pong balls to where he can sit there and maybe get a top 5 draft pick and sit there and make the decision to go out and get a guy? I mean, this is the same guy who brought you Stanley Johnson. Stanley Johnson, who most of the season's been MIA. A guy like Devin Booker, he's a guy you could have had here. He dropped 70 the other night. What'd Stanley Johnson do? Last night, Stanley Johnson was a turnover machine and cost you that game against Miami, a game that you needed, a game that you had to have because you're fighting for your playoff lives. And now, with that loss, Miami now has a tiebreaker, and you're basically on the outside looking in, and you're going to need a whole lot of help to get into the playoffs. And this is a team that me and you both said that they could have been a 5th or a 6th seed going into the season. And now they're a 10th seed? Are you serious?
And what's so devastating is when you look at the Pistons and you evaluate them, they're not significantly better from last year. And people will say, well, it's a young team. It's a team that has potential. You got to be more patient. But the way I look at it is you haven't seen improvement. Okay, Stanley Johnson, is he above a 10-point-a-night scorer? No, he's making rookie mistakes. I don't even know about that call that cost the team when he was like riding up on the guy on the Miami inbounder. But it's a mistake. And you look at it and you go, okay, in 2 years, what Stanley Johnson has been able to do is not good enough. Andre Johnson got the big check and has regressed. Nobody's arguing with that. And why is that the case? Is it something where there's a divide between the players and the coach? I don't see that. I feel like the team just doesn't have enough talent. That's the biggest indication. I feel like Stan Van Gundy's a good coach, but in terms of his job as bringing in the talent, I feel like if he really evaluated and he scoured the landscape and he looked at a team and the way he was going to build it, and you make the cornerstones Reggie Jackson and Andre Drummond, it's a fireable offense because you knew and I knew that when we questioned it. I've aired and replayed stuff that we've said, and that's the blessing of having an archive is we can go back and listen and look back at what we've said. And when you give Reggie Jackson that much money, when you give Andre Drummond that much money, when you potentially give KCP that much money, there is no way you can sell that to be a successful franchise. So I think we're on the same page in our frustrations with the Detroit Pistons. And all we can say is it's time probably to move on because you're not going to give Stan Van Gundy 3 more years to try and rebuild this because this is a year you should have gotten to the postseason and advanced to win a round or two. Now you're looking at it and you go, well, okay, Reggie Jackson's hurt. Fine. You can give him a pass on that. But you look at it, and Ish Smith is a decent backup, but probably not NBA worthy. You got Bino Udrih, who's a turnover machine. You know, turnover Pistons all the time. And then the biggest indication and the biggest indictment is what's going on with Andre Drummond. His progression is not good enough, and you just look at what Hassan Whiteside was able to do with several more years' experience, but he dominated Andre Drummond in that game, in a big game. And you look at it, you go 9 points, a great rebounding number, fine. He's always going to be good for rebounds due to his height and stature. But in crunch time, when we need someone to be there and we need a leader, I think right now Andre Drummond is a guy that you could get something for if you want to rebuild now and really, stick the fork in this era and this team, start over. You're not going to let go of Reggie Jackson. His contract is terrible, and he's a shell of himself, so you're stuck with him. You got to let KCP go to the Nets or let him go to any team that makes him a real offer. Let Andre Drummond go, start over, and rebuild and really make it a team that can compete because this team, as constructed, basically we are all hoping that night in, night out, a lot of these guys are just rested because they're not playing good. It's not fun to watch. We just need them to continue to lose so that we can get higher up in the draft, win the draft lottery maybe, and get maybe a top 10 talent wherever you get it.
And here's the thing. The big man has always perplexed Stan Van Gundy. He has no idea how to motivate them or how to get the most out of them. If you go back to when he was coaching in Orlando, he had his issues with Dwight Howard. When he was in Miami, he had issues with Shaq, and Shaq's a Hall of Fame player. So Stan Van Gundy trying to develop a guy like Andre Drummond, it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. I think the bigger issue is what you're seeing with a guy like Reggie Jackson. And I understand he had an injury going into the year, and he's got some knee tendonitis, and this is something that slowed down Scottie Pippen in the later half of his career. And look, Stan Van Gundy has come out and basically said, look, he's operating at 80% maybe, so we might shut him down for the rest of the year. And I don't have a problem if you shut him down for the rest of the year. Go ahead, do whatever you got to do. Because this team is a dumpster fire right now. You're not making the playoffs. I don't care what happens. I know it's not set in stone, but you're not making the playoffs. You're just not. Okay, let's just leave it at that. Shut him down. I don't care. You know what I would try to do? I would try to facilitate some type of a trade. And I don't know who the hell is going to want this guy because he was an issue when he was over in OKC. Right? He sat there, he wrote down starting point guard on his shoes, and he had all kinds of issues with Russell Westbrook. He thought he was better than Russell Westbrook, which you're delusional, because Russell Westbrook might be the MVP of the league right now. And on top of that, Russell Westbrook is a killer, absolute killer. And then you come here, and the team starts off okay, and you're getting some good production with a guy like Ish Smith, and then we insert you back in the lineup, and then it just seems like the wheels fall off. So you might be the issue. Reggie, you might be the issue. You need to be looked at. And I don't know if it's so much that we got to look at maybe Stan Van Gundy and his coaching and the way he tries to get through to players. Maybe you need another coach in here. Maybe Stan Van Gundy is good enough as the general manager. Maybe he's just not good enough as the coach because he does alienate his players. So maybe you bring a guy in, kind of like the way Larry Brown sat there and was able to motivate a guy like Chauncey Billups and teach him how to play the position. Because I'm tired of hero ball. When you're down by 5 and you got 3 minutes left, and it's kind of a close game back and forth, and you got a real good shot to win it, I don't trust Reggie with the ball because he's going to go out there and he's going to try to do it all by himself instead of making the right play or the easy play. I just can't handle it.
See, I know you want to trade these guys, but look what happened.
But nobody wants them.
Exactly. That's the most embarrassing part.
That's the issue.
You could have had Boogie Cousins here, and you made an offer for at least Andre Drummond to the Sacramento Kings. They looked at you and said, click, and they hung up. They said, we're not interested in that. So, unfortunately, the only way the Pistons are going to legitimately rebuild and put some asses in the seats at the new Little Caesars Arena is to tank, lose a bunch of games in the next upcoming year, and get a top 10 pick, and that's how you legitimately have to build. And then we have to have the argument of whether or not Stan Van Gundy should be the coach or the general manager of this team, because there's this weird symbiotic thing going on with him and Tom Gores where I'm not really sure who's calling the shots.
Stan Van Gundy's got nudes of Tom Gores. Don't worry about it. In a compromising position. That's what's going on.
No, something's going on because I don't really believe Stan Van Gundy would really want Andre Drummond.
Oh, no, I don't think so either. I think that was a total Tom Gores call. He sat there and he thought he had his face of his franchise. And if you look at everything that goes on, when I was sitting there out at the Piston presser, when they're talking about the new practice facility and all that, who was the one guy who showed up? It was Andre. He's the face of the franchise. He's the guy. He showed up in his little tight capris with his little slip-on shoes, looking real weird, right? He's a giant of a man, but he's looking real weird. And this is the thing, right? If I gave you a sheet of paper and I said, here, John, write down the guys that you would want to trade off this team. And go ahead and give me an order, the guys that you want to trade and how you want to trade them.
I'm keeping Tobias Harris. He's a leader. Marcus Morris can be a solid bench guy. Lure you can probably keep, but he's a solid bench guy. You could let him go. He could be on the list. I would trade Drummond, Lure, Baines, Boban, Ish, the rest of them. I'm only keeping 2 guys, and that's probably Tobias Harris and Marcus Morris. The rest of them, you can dispense and get picks or do whatever you got to do with them. I think that the roster does need an overhaul. One, they're not marketable. Two, it's just not fun basketball. I mean, it's just not something that without a free ticket, I want to take my money out and see. You really want to, really go out and pay $49.99 for a ticket to watch KCP rain down threes? I mean, it's fine, but he's straight-laced. It's not entertaining. He shoots threes, and he's okay. He's a guy that you could build around if you want to keep him, but not at a price tag of $20 million. I don't care what the salary cap is. I don't care what the percentage is. My question is this, is that can the Pistons win with KCP? You've gotten 40 wins the last 2 years with KCP, jacking up threes. So let the Nets make him a supreme offer and let him go. And it's unfortunate that you weren't able to make those trades. And to piggyback on what we said, you had an opportunity maybe to trade Reggie Jackson for Ricky Rubio. Maybe you don't get value, but maybe there's value in chemistry.
Yep.
Maybe there's value in just getting rid of a guy that you can foreshadow and say, I don't think when I look at it, when I have a meeting with my inner circle and I say, can we win an NBA ring and hoist that trophy with Reggie Jackson? 2 podcasters in Sterling Heights know that you can't. We knew this beforehand. How do we know that? And everybody else is still like, well, they're still young. It's a chemistry thing. You can tell the Pistons play differently on the court with the eyes that we're watching when Ish Smith is leading the team. They got more energy. They got more life. Just look in the postgame. I don't know if you sat and, after the disastrous loss, when they lost to Miami, if you've just kind of watched how Ish Smith conducts himself. He's more vibrant. He talks to the media. He even stood up for Stan Van Gundy. A question was asked by a reporter. They approached Ish Smith and they said, Stan Van Gundy has been taking a lot of the slack for this loss for the better part of the last, couple weeks and things like that. And Ish stood up there and he said, you know what? This is why we respect Stan Van Gundy as players. He stands up for us. He's a guy that prepares us very well, but we just got to stand up here and take the blame on ourselves. And he stood up there like a leader, and he's more expressive. He's more engaging with the media. You look at Reggie Jackson, and he looks
articulate. The word you're looking for is articulate. When Reggie Jackson sits there, he's always dour, always down. And he always...
I don't want to listen to him talk, right?
No, exactly.
Ish Smith has a personality, and I actually had a quick run-in with him, in that when I was at the Pistons practice, they have a gate there, and I thought that you could just kind of stand there and the gate would open or someone's going to push a button. So I'm standing there waiting, and this guy's, behind me just chilling, waiting. A minute goes by. All of a sudden, I hear and I look, and that's Ish Smith behind me. He's like, you got to kind of go right up to the gate, and it'll open. So he was, a nice guy, didn't helpful. No honking the horn, no flicking me off, was very helpful,
right?
And he's a nice guy. So that's the kind of person you want to talk to in a post-game interview. But with the Pistons, the biggest 2 problems are they don't play with energy night in, night out for full 48 minutes. They don't have enough talent probably to do that. And 2, they're not marketable. They're not a whole collection of players that you want to take money out of your pocket and see. And that's an onus on the organization. And we can have this discussion about Stan Van Gundy and whether you think he's a better coach or a manager or whatever the issue is. But the biggest indictment is the team hasn't gotten better. And he'll admit it, and we all can see it. The team hasn't gotten better. But to sum it up, this is a good thing. I know people don't like to see collapses, but this is a great thing.
This is a good draft, and that's why it's a good thing. This is the bigger issue that I see with this Pistons team. I think they're soft. I think they're weak.
S-A-W.
Yeah, exactly.
Soft, huh?
I think they're soft physically, and I think they're soft between the ears. And I think the biggest issue on this team are your leaders, or the guys that you look to be your leaders, the faces of your franchise, both Reggie Jackson and Andre Drummond. If I'm going to trade anybody on this roster, I'm trading those 2 guys first. And then you could talk about whoever you want. Look, I don't care for I like KCP. I think he's a solid player. I don't like Stanley Johnson. I didn't like that draft pick. This is if we go back a couple years, was it, I think 2 years ago now, when we were talking about who we're going to take, I would have took Winslow. I'd have took Winslow all day, right?
You could have took Devin Booker.
You could have took Devin Booker. But I don't think any of us seen 70 points coming out of Devin Booker. And look, let's be honest, right? They did everything in their power to get 70 points for Devin Booker. It was one of let's foul, let's get the Booker the ball and let him just go up there and jack shots. That's what that was. But still, I think the team is soft. I think it's put together. I think it's poorly constructed. And look, Stan Van Gundy's teams usually are a 3-point shooting team. How many 3-point shooters do you have on this team? How many? I'll give you a second.
2.
Who?
Morris and, KCP. Marcus?
And I don't think either one of those guys are 3-point shooters.
Not pure.
I don't, look, Morris is, I think, maybe more of a stretch 4, right? And I think he can do a good enough job away from the basket, but I don't think his pure range is somewhere out by the 3-point arc. And KCP is a better defender than anything else that he does. he's your best defensive player that you have on your team. Otherwise, he gives you a little bit on the offensive side, and that's usually all you ask for. This team, the chemistry on the team, not just mentally, I think physically, what Stan Van Gundy likes to do, this team doesn't have the pieces to do what he wants to do. And look, again, goes back to Stan. He's the one who put these pieces in place. There's a big issue here.
To sum it up, the Pistons are struggling, they're losing, and they're probably going to be, not in the postseason, similar to the Red Wings, who we'll talk about later on in this podcast a little bit. But speaking of basketball, March Madness, man, it really took off this past weekend in the Sweet 16 and Elite 8. I thought that the games in the first and second rounds were really good, but wow, the games in the Elite 8 were really solid. The games in the Sweet 16, unfortunately, Michigan's season ended. But the way I look at it is that round, the Sweet 16 round and the round of the Elite 8, the tournament really took off, and you have some great storylines ahead of this weekend's Final Four matchups. And, for me, it's, of course, in any situation when there's competition, you do your research, you try and copy others that are experts, and what ends up happening, the wife is atop our challenge bracket, about to make some money if certain things fall the right way. But she's still got two of the big teams left. She's got Gonzaga, and she's got North Carolina in the Final Four. And, in essence, I asked her, like, why'd you pick that? She's like, duh, they're number one seeds. And I'm like, you know what? I can't argue with that.
Right.
It's always is the case, is that someone that just kind of
goes like, they wear blue. I like blue.
No, she just went with the fact that they were number one seeds and that she did a little bit of reading and realized that Carolina had a chance and a lot of people were picking them. So she's atop our challenge bracket, so that's pretty cool. It is quite surprising, in my opinion, that North Carolina really is the only blue chip school that's left in this entire tournament. But that game, probably game of the year when you had Kentucky taking on North Carolina.
Yeah, that was a good game, and I think you're right. I think it is surprising that there's only one blue chip team still remaining. And at this point, you can discuss whether or not Gonzaga is still considered not a blue chip team, maybe a Cinderella story. Look, Gonzaga's been there for what seems like years. I remember when Gonzaga was brand new to the dance, and now it seems like every single year. And
good for Gonzaga. They made
right.
it finally. It was good. So
Exactly.
I like when there's two teams that play, and it's going to be an opportunity for one to get to the Final Four for the first time. It's a good storyline.
It is. It's a real nice storyline. And look, Mark Few, maybe he can do some good things for Gonzaga. I don't really care about Gonzaga. I don't necessarily care about North Carolina. To be honest with you, I hate North Carolina.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like them at all. I just whatever. There's always a ton of hype with North Carolina. I don't care. Oregon, I don't care about either. The one team that I think I want to win this more than anything, and it's because of who the head coach is, it's South Carolina, right?
You like the coach? Huh?
I do. I love Frank Martin. Frank Martin strikes me as the kind of guy who wears
old school.
Wears a nice suit. You can see him on the streets in a dark alley of New York, and he'll probably slap you around for a few shekels. You know what I'm saying? He has that old mafioso look to him. And he's intense, man. Like that guy, he's the type of dude you don't want to piss off. And I love it. I absolutely love it. On top of it, all of his players call him Frank. They all call him Frank. Most guys are known as Coach, right? Hey, it's Coach Few. Hey, it's Coach whatever. You know what I'm saying? No, hey, that's Frank. What's up, Frank? How you doing, Frank? That's what it is. I don't know, man. I like South Carolina. I hope they win it all.
Did you hear the quote that he had now recently where he had a nice quote that's been retweeted by a lot of people?
Where he talks about kids and how they're soft.
And he said that, listen, I can't stand where people say that kids have changed. He's like, kids haven't changed. They know jack shit from before, and they still know jack shit. What's changed is adults who have now catered and changed to these kids and don't push them in order to allow these kids to reach their potential. And when I read that, I'm like, wow, what a breath of fresh air to see that, in that he says that in order to potentially get the most out of people, you can't kiss their ass all the time.
That's right.
You cannot, with a college athlete, just be like, it's all good, coddle them, I'll make them feel like nothing is going to go wrong. No, you're going to face disappointment. You're going to face trials and tribulations. And in order for you to succeed, you got to pick your ass up when you fail. And he says that adults need to take that into consideration and push these kids, not in a way that's abusive, obviously not. But what he's saying is, if a kid messes up, you got to get on them and tell them, hey, you cannot do that. You got to ride them. You got to potentially push someone to see what their capabilities are, what their full potential is. And in town, locally, we see that all the time. Tom Izzo does that. Greg Campy at Oakland definitely does that. And seeing it up front, I agree in that these people that push kids and that are really strict and stern with kids, they still can garner respect. And the reason is because you have to have a good balance of that, not just catering to a kid, not just riding them, but when they're down, and they have to play amateur psychologist. They have to realize when to push the right button when. And it looks like Mr. Martin is a guy that has garnered respect. And when he talks on ESPN or on Fox Sports, you want to watch him because he just got that look of a guy that's just like, I want to hear what that guy has to say. He is a natural-born leader, a real solid coach. And for me, though, I would rather have Gonzaga for name value in the tournament, in the final, and I'm hoping that it does shake out where it's Gonzaga versus North Carolina. That's the big money draw. That's the main event. 2 number 1
You
seeds.
just want that so your wife wins money. That's all.
That also is a secondary gain here. I'm not being 100% altruistic, but hey, when money's on the line as well, it's also, too, she was excited. You know, when we do this, we love it. But it was so fun to watch the game with my wife because she was like, the game's on at 5. I'm like, what? I wasn't even aware the game was on. I was doing other things, watching Detroit sports, tweeting away, and she's like, turn on the game, it's on 5:05. I'm like, what? So we're watching it, and it's going great early on. She's really excited. Obviously, then Kentucky makes their run in the second half, and when Kentucky made that shot, she got down. All of a sudden, we're both standing there watching, and then North Carolina comes down, makes that nice shot. She's jumping up and down, yes, because she's competitive, and it was cool. She was genuinely excited to see a team win, and she was like, another thing, too, you better tell Adam that, it officially knocked him out of that challenge because you're stuck, or the word is you're no longer able to gain any more points.
No, yeah, I'm stuck. I think the best. I'm in second place.
Yeah, you can't get any more points.
Place, but I'm 77 points is the best I can do.
That's the best you can do. You've been eliminated from solid contention. So she wanted to let you know that. And so she was excited. She was genuinely excited to watch a college basketball game, and that's what competition will do for you. And that's what great college basketball will do. And I think the best opportunity for the best game probably is Gonzaga versus North Carolina. And that's what I think all the fans deserve and want to see. But who do you got? Who do you want to see?
I think you're probably right. It's going to come down to Gonzaga, North Carolina. I want South Carolina to win. Again, like I said, I like Frank Martin. I think he's an interesting guy. I think he's fun to listen to. Like you said, when he talks, you stop and you listen. And I love that. And I love the intensity that he brings. The one thing that really surprises me about these 4 teams that are left in this tournament is that there are no more one and dones. All the schools that are left, they all basically have either sophomore, junior, or senior leadership. There's no freshmen that are on their way to the NBA. So when you're building a program like this to compete in this type of a tournament, do you think it's better to go for the best talent available, or would you sit there and would you do it similar to how Michigan State does? This is something we were talking about last week. Would you do it the way Michigan State kind of does it, where, look, you might not get that number 1 recruit, you might not get that guy who's destined for the NBA, but you can get a guy who's gonna sit there and make an impact for your program over the long haul for the next 2, 3, maybe even 4 years.
I think I figured out the formula. The way you do it is if you're gonna target one and dones, like a Miles Bridges, like a Deontay Davis, like somebody that you think could be a one and done. You want to wait and target the guy that you want when you have a junior and senior laden team, where that guy who's a one and done superstar can be a complementary piece that can do some things in the tournament when he evolves and when his potential in that 1 year that he's there can reach. So when you got a couple juniors, a couple seniors that can lead your team, then you go for the one and done. So when would Miles Bridges have been perfect? Last year, unfortunately. If he was around, then you target the major one and done guy with the most talent. Man, if Miles Bridges was on that team last year for Michigan State, no doubt about it, you would have had a run. You would not lose to Middle Tennessee State.
You would have totally got by Middle Tennessee State.
But to have a one and done when you got 4 freshmen, that's just really tough. So these freshmen coming up, the remaining ones that are going to stay at Michigan State, people are saying that class could stick around. So you hope that a Nick Ward can maybe stay 1 more year beyond his sophomore year. And then you got a solid team maybe with Winston, Langford, Nick Ward going on as juniors and seniors. Boom, you add that one and done when they're upperclassmen. Now you got a solid team. That's the way to do it. I don't think too many coaches really want to do the Kentucky system. It's great for
Calipari's the only one who wants to do the Kentucky system.
He's the only one that probably can pull it off year in, year out, because that is sick what he's doing in terms of getting guys to collectively buy in and to piece together freshmen year in, year out.
But here's the thing. Does it really translate to success? Like, I know that he's really dominant in the SEC, right? And I know he's usually a top seed when it comes to tournament time, but they're usually done by the time the Sweet 16 Elite 8 roll around.
Your point is exactly right.
They usually don't make it to the Final Four. And I thought this year they would sit there and they would have a chance to make it to the Final Four. I actually had them winning the entire thing just
Well, you know what happened,
there was
right?
a ton of talent on that team.
The refs screwed Calipari, duh. Like
Yeah,
always,
yeah.
they said that we're going to go out there and whenever the Kentucky players touch Carolina player, we're going to call a foul. So per Calipari and what he tells the media that, the refs fouled out his entire team when that really wasn't the case. But hey, whatever you got to tell yourself to make yourself feel better, I'm down for.
Calipari sees things through Calipari glasses, and
It was the refs, baby. You can't beat the
Always.
refs. You can't beat the refs, man. But it's been a fun tournament, and for me, I kind of like college basketball probably now 40% more than I like NBA basketball. It's more exciting.
NBA is so boring,
It's
man.
Basically you could really make college basketball better if you just eliminate one of the breaks. Maybe the under 8 timeout. You can just eliminate that. The under 16, under 12, under 4 timeouts, just enough. But the games can get a little bit long in these tournaments with the commercials, but you, in essence, know it's a 2-hour game. It's intense. You kind of can get the flow of the game. It's 2 20-minute halves and go to it. And I've really become, especially covering it in the span of this season, I've really enjoyed college basketball. And when people say, oh, there's not a lot of coverage in college basketball in town, to hell, that's wrong.
There's a ton of it.
There's a ton of it. People do consume it. We got people that follow Oakland.
We've got a lot of programs here too, where we're one of the best areas for not just sports, but for college athletics.
Yeah, it's pretty good. You can dig into it.
You've got Michigan, you've got Michigan State. On top of that, you've got, if you're talking basketball, you got Oakland, you've got UAD, Eastern,
Central.
There are, Central solid. There are schools everywhere. And then if you want to sit there and you want to go even further, if you want to talk about college hockey, Michigan State, of course, but you've got Michigan Tech, you've got Northern Michigan. You've got a ton of college athletics in this area, which makes everything incredible. The question I have for you before we wrap this segment up is, who do you have winning this whole thing? I've got North Carolina probably coming away with the champions, and a lot of that has to do with just senior leadership, the fact that they've kind of been there, done that. They've got a coach who has been there, done that. There's a whole lot of just intangibles that I think they can pull from to help them get a victory, whether it be over Gonzaga or South Carolina.
See, I see things a little bit differently. I think Gonzaga might have that team of destiny thing going on. I think they got solid inside presence. They got a good shooting team. It's just one of those things where can they handle the spotlight in a big moment? Because now there's still always a difference competitively between the Sweet 16, the Elite 8, and the Final Four. So that's why can they handle when South Carolina makes a run? Because it's going to be a game of runs, I think, Gonzaga versus South Carolina. I think that Gonzaga is going to get out early, handle the pressure early on, but South Carolina is going to be resilient. They're going to fight. They're going to punch. And how does Gonzaga handle it? They've only had, I think, one loss the entire year. So they are battle-tested, and they have the talent. So if the matchup is North Carolina-Gonzaga, I got a feeling it's going to be Gonzaga this year. But if it's South Carolina versus North Carolina, I do think that the Tar Heels will walk away with the championship. I don't see any scenario in which I think it's Oregon is in there. Who's the other part of our team?
Oregon's in there.
Yeah,
Yep.
I don't think Oregon can take down UNC.
I don't think they win it either. I see North Carolina in the end just coming away with all of it just because of the way they've got to go and who they've got to get through. So it's just, I don't know. I think there, like I said, too many intangibles for them not to win this.
Great basketball segment, sir. Let's take our first time out of this podcast, episode 190. We'll come back and we'll definitely give our full attention to WrestleMania 33 in the upcoming segment. You're listening to Doc and Jock on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Doc here for DetroitSportsPodcast.com. We appreciate everybody's support. The only way we can keep the lights on, these microphones hot, is through your support. If you like what you're listening to, if you like the great guests that you see coming into our offices, and you like the podcast, just go visit our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. You can click through the Amazon banner. You can buy tickets to any of the sporting events. That's the easiest and free way to keep our project going, and that's how we've been able to keep daily podcasts going for the most part, for the better part of 4 years. And it's been a great project. Great things are ahead and in store for the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, and we show our appreciation for those that do support us, for those that do take the time to message us on Twitter and tell us, that they're liking the guests, they're liking the shows, they're liking the uncensored nature of our project, and we greatly appreciate it. And if you like what you hear, and if you don't like what you hear, message us on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, and to help us, check out our website for sure, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. WrestleMania week, cuz. Wow, what a great week of the year. I know if you're a wrestling fan, you're excited for this week. And I know if you're somebody that's a little bit frugal and you haven't signed up for the WWE Network, definitely go out there, take advantage of your free month. You get WrestleMania for free. Who doesn't like free? You know, they definitely have a good strategy where they give you that 30 days free in the hope that a certain percentage will stick around after the fact. And it's WrestleMania week. And if you're not down with that, I got 2 words for you, baby.
Suck it. A lot of news kind of broke this week, and I guess let's start with that. And then we're gonna do a little prediction segment here where we're gonna kind of go over the entire card for WrestleMania, giving our thoughts on who's gonna win. But some news broke this week. It appears that one of the hotter female wrestlers, I mean, she's absolutely garbage in the ring, but she is so attractive. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, you need to go check her out online. Miss All Red Everything, Eva Marie, it appears that she's gone. She's basically, her contract's not going to be renewed. She's been trying to do this whole acting thing, kind of been in a couple movies. That's why you haven't seen her on SmackDown. And when you did see her on SmackDown, basically she was having wardrobe malfunctions left and right, which I'm not upset about, but she can't wrestle. Right? She does not need to be on the roster anymore, and they're not bringing her back.
And I can't blame them because, in essence, what everybody knew, and it was true, she used the WWE to get over, and she's not diehard. She's not somebody, they know that she's not somebody that's would die to get into the ring. She wanted to use them to build up her social media platform, and she got over on them. Good for her, whatever she's going to do in her life, that's fine. But if you're a wrestling fan, you realize she just didn't cut the mustard. And I give them full credit. They realized they didn't fire her. They're just going to let her ride out her contract. And it's just, in essence, somebody that wasted their potential. She may come back as a valet maybe in a couple years when she does get over as an actress, or maybe she'll do some other kind of stuff with the WWE. But in terms of being diehard, in terms of what they're looking for now, you know what Triple H is looking for. Diehard warriors that want to be wrestlers, that can handle the grind and handle that lifestyle. Not people that are looking to get over on the WWE. They know it. You can tell. And that was the talk. And unfortunately for All Red, Eva, she's not going to be part of the wrestling scene for the foreseeable future.
And I think that's probably the one role that she probably would have been best for. She would have been best as a valet. She's stunningly attractive. Stunningly. Like she has this exotic look to her. She is built. She can't really cut a promo real well, but you know, you're going to stop.
She can't talk, she can't wrestle, she can't do much.
But you're going to stop and you're going to listen because you want to look at her.
That's why they messed up. What I think is sometimes the creative people sometimes have really gone on with this whole women's revolution, and they want to make every single female talent a wrestler.
Right.
And what you could do is you could have made money if you stuck her with a talent and made her a valet. She's a valet.
Yes,
and,
all day.
And I think there is a missed opportunity there if they do sit around and they go, what could we have done with Eva? Not stick her ass in the ring for 3 years and let her train and be off of TV. No, you let her walk out there and just be hot. Eva's hot. You want to stare at her. So you could have put her with The Miz.
I was going to say, you could have probably put her with Dolph Ziggler if you want to give him a push. You could have put her with just about anybody.
You could have put her with AJ Styles.
That
Chris
was
Jericho,
the next guy I was going to say.
Kevin Owens. You could have put her as a badass with anybody that's an upcoming heel. You know what? You really wanted to dig in and you really want to scrap that whole wrestling idea. You stick her with Roman Reigns.
There you go.
And you stick her with somebody and she just stands there, is hot, maybe slaps a couple wrestlers in some matches, gets in the way, and then everybody pops when she goes through a table. That's it. That's what she could have been used for. Yep. You know what? In essence, what we're saying, you blew the chance to probably have the next Miss Elizabeth. It could have been Eva.
That's exactly
it could have been Eva.
Exactly. That's what she could have been, and that's probably what she should have been.
Not a wrestler.
She would have been probably much more comfortable, and she would have succeeded much more there. But like I said, she's got a couple things on the table. She's in a couple movies. They are due to come out soon, but I feel like they missed their opportunity here. Again, beautiful girl. The talent for wrestling, not really there.
Programming note, though, after WrestleMania on CBS Sports Radio, national radio show Taz is going to do a 3-hour breakdown of WrestleMania on national radio. You can tune in on CBS. I'll definitely be listening.
So when you get done with WrestleMania sometime after 11, you're going to stay up till 2?
I'm staying up till 2, listen to the breakdowns, all the callers, because
I'll be going to bed.
Yeah, no, I'm diehard. My WrestleMania routine will be simple. 5 o'clock, I'll be locked into the pre-show. Whatever goes down, 7 o'clock the card starts, and from 5 until 11:05 or whenever it ends, I'll be watching wrestling. That's my day. So I'll probably be going in and out because on some of these matches, I'm just not interested, and I'll give you my points when we start talking about it. But WrestleMania day, I'm hooked. 5 to midnight, baby. I'm going to try to find a way so that my network doesn't freeze up, or I'll get every device going that can watch it so I don't miss any of the action. But I'm looking forward to Sunday.
Do me a favor. So I've got a hockey game at 5:20. So I'm going to miss some of the pre-show. I'm not going to be able to go and get over to my buddy's house until probably closer to 7. I should be there before everything kicks off. I need you to give me pre-show results.
Got it.
You can send those
I'll tweet.
messages to me.
Yeah, I'll tweet. No problem. I'll tweet
it.
you and I'll text you as well because unfortunately the cruiserweights, of course, get the shaft and they get stuck in the pre-show.
We'll discuss it. We'll discuss it because it chaps my ass.
Not too much. Okay, here's my big thing on the card. And when I watched Raw and SmackDown this week, here's what I kind of noticed. The big stars definitely sold their matches. No doubt about it. Goldberg, Lesnar, John Cena, Triple H, Seth Rollins, AJ Styles, and Shane McMahon all did fantastic jobs of elevating themselves and making me go, those are the matches I want to see. So then,
John Cena's a beast, by the way.
No doubt. We'll talk about his promo because it was awesome. But then I go all the mid-cards, like the Baileys, like the Dean Ambroses, like the Alexa Blisses, Gallows and Anderson, Neville and Austin Aries. What
Did
WWE
they give Dean Ambrose a chance to do anything? I don't remember. Like, here's
nothing worthwhile remembering to talk about.
My point. Like, I don't remember anything from him from SmackDown.
So my point is, the biggest failure of WWE Creative is you're not elevating the mid-card talent to the point where they could be. They could be better. I'm not saying that all these people need to be main eventers.
You do realize this has been a problem for, I don't know,
forever.
15, 20, 40, 50 years. This has been a problem.
But in essence, the Bayley women's match, I'm not interested. Even if you could add anybody, I'm not interested. The Alexa Bliss SmackDown match, I'm not interested. The Gallows match, I mean, you could say that potentially Enzo and Cass will get over and win their title there. I'm not interested. Neville, Austin Aries in the thing, I'm not interested.
That's probably going to be the best pure wrestling match on the card, though. Big
Show, Braun Strowman, Sami Zayn, the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, I'm not interested. So there's going to be a lot of... I could even say while watching it, I might do other things during some of these matches. But starting with John Cena and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 6 top matches... outstanding. I'm going to watch them all. But the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 6 bottom matches, horrible. Basically, once John Cena and Nikki Bella started off with the Miz and Maurice, after that, every single match going up to the top of the card is amazing. Everything below that, Chris Jericho, Kevin Owens, I could see, but you pretty much know Kevin Owens is getting over. It's going to be a great wrestling match, but not too much. The top end is great, but the mid cards isn't that good.
So here's something for you. Are you interested in this? Are you interested that WWE may purchase ROH? Does that raise any flags for you?
Here's where it raises for me, my pocketbook, because people are speculating that the reason why they want to go after Impact, the reason why WWE wants to go after Ring of Honor is they're going to start setting up a tier system within the network where they're like, okay, you want all the programming? $9.99. You want all the pay-per-views? And the programming, $12.99. You want all the programming with ROH and Impact, $15.99. So I'm like,
this was a survey that they sent out to all the subscribers a couple years ago,
right?
Or maybe a year ago.
I totally am against that. Just give me one price, and if you only raise it $1 or $2, at the most, I think I'm willing to pay $12 a month for it. But if they're going to start shooting up tiers where you start breaking things down where you get more for more money. I'm not a fan of Ring of Honor, so I wouldn't probably purchase it. I'm not a fan of Impact too much. I would maybe look at the history with Sting and Kurt Angle and what they did there because I really never invested in TNA and all that. But there were a lot of good angles with Taz, with Hogan coming back in that little situation.
That was awful, actually.
Yeah, well, I'm a Hogan fan, so I'm just not into the whole tier system. I don't want to, feel like I'm missing out of something. I think the package should be, it's the complete archive of wrestling, and I'll pay $12 for it. But other than that, if they do Ring of Honor, they're going to jack up the price.
Yes. And I don't think they're going to do anything with TNA. They had discussions last year when TNA was going through their financial crisis, trying to sit there and purchase the library. And I think that's kind of what they're trying to do here with ROH. They want to either purchase or they want to solicit and be able to show parts of their Ring of Honor library. Because if you look at WWE and you basically look at the roster, most of their talent, they got their start in ROH. Your Seth Rollins, your Dean Ambroses, all these guys started in ROH. Your AJ Styles was in ROH. So, I mean, you have a large portion of your talent and your rosters come from Ring of Honor. So they want some of that early footage. Your Sami Zayn, your Kevin Owens, all these guys. That's where they sat there and basically paid their dues. So WWE, I think what they're looking to do is more or less buy the rights to be able to show some of that footage, and they may work something out where they sit there and they help distribute ROH. We do something similar here on the podcast where we have friends of the show. We'll sit there and we'll help distribute some of their shows, but That's what I think WWE is trying to do. And you're right. They may raise the cost. And like you said, I think $12 is probably the nice price point. I don't see them doing anything with TNA. It strikes me that there is a impending war that is coming. The way TNA is fashioning themselves right now, they're basically laying down the gauntlet, and I think they are
They might try to pinch for a star currently on the roster?
Well, I don't think they're going to do that, but they're looking to, I think, challenge WWE. Right now, TNA is fighting from behind, right? They basically have one arm tied behind their back right now because they're trying to get all their ducks in order and trying to get all their finances lined up, because the way Dixie Carter left TNA, now Impact, was a complete disaster. It was a total dumpster fire. So Anthem steps in, purchases it. Anthem has the money and the financial resources to be able to do pretty much whatever it is that they want to do. They also sit there and they have the Fight Network, which shows TNA wrestling in Canada. They also have deals and things set up in the UK, and that's where TNA made most of their money, was from their deals in the UK. So I think what they're looking to do is they're looking to get their finances in order. They're looking to sit there and work out other deals where they merge with other organizations like AAA, which is a luchador wrestling promotion. You see a lot of their stars on Lucha Underground. They're looking to sit there and strike up other deals with other promotions in the UK, as well as more in South America. And what they're looking to do is they're looking to exchange talent back and forth and bring new guys in, send some of their guys over there. WWE may do the same thing with ROH. If WWE can do that with ROH,
you're golden. You're good. You're good.
Basically, the war is now over. You ended the war before it could ever start, because TNA had something worked out with ROH where they were going to do that. And then TNA went and they filed all kinds of injunctions to prevent the Hardys from using the Broken Hardy gimmick on one of their most recent pay-per-views, and got the ROH pay-per-view pulled from DirecTV or from Dish Network. So that kind of rubbed ROH the wrong way, and I think ROH is now, okay, well, you know what? Screw you, TNA. And speaking of the Hardy Boys, do you think we see them and their broken gimmick at WrestleMania? A lot of rumors, a lot of speculation. They've got a match taking place on April 1st, and I believe that's their final match in Ring of Honor. After that, they're free agents, and they could show up in WWE.
I see them showing up, but I don't see them showing up with the broken gimmick. I don't think Vince McMahon wants to debut them back with a gimmick that was featured in another wrestling organization. I think he wants to see.
So over.
It is
so over.
I think potentially he'll have them come back, and then they'll just be the old Hardy Boys, and maybe they'll segue into that maybe down the line.
I hope it's not the old Hardy Boys. Look, here's the thing. If you haven't watched any TNA, the broken gimmick for Matt Hardy and then bringing in the nefarious brother Nero, it basically saved TNA. They were on their deathbed, about to go bankrupt, and Matt and Jeff Hardy saved this company, paid for a lot of the things that went along with TNA and the whole broken Hardy gimmick and just the whole total deletion, nonstop deletion, all of it. They sat there and they basically paid out of pocket and helped salvage TNA and basically help bridge the gap until Anthem could step in and purchase it. If I was WWE, if I'm Vince McMahon, I will bring the Hardy Boys back. I will debut them at WrestleMania. I will have them sit there and run in during one of the tag matches is where I would do it. I would probably do it the triple threat ladder match with
Luke Gallows,
yes.
Enzo and Cass.
Yes, that match.
And Sheamus and Cesaro.
Exactly. And I would probably have them run in and do something there, and I would have them do it in their broken gimmick and just it like I said, it is absolutely over. This is the one thing. You can go anywhere. If you attend a WWE event, you've got people holding signs that say delete, and you've got people going delete, delete, delete. It's just now has taken on a life of its own. You've got to debut them that way. Don't bring them back as the Hardy Boys. I don't want to see them as the Hardy Boys.
If you really want to take wrestling in an epic direction, I think most people realize Finn Balor somehow is going to show up at WrestleMania. Maybe the Hardy Boys, but why not one time?
Finn Balor will be well, you want to just jump into the card?
I definitely want to do that, but there's one name I would definitely go apeshit and might do a flip in my house.
Kurt
Angle?
No.
Oh. Come on.
No.
When most Raw events start...
He's probably going to be the new general manager of Raw, by the way.
No doubt about it. When most events start, and when some of these segments go long, and they start to, when the authority's in the ring, or when these guys are cutting promos, there's one name that people chant. One name that still, is pervasive as a guy that left the business in a terrible way. And you know that name when you think about it.
The cult of personality. I know your anger, I know your dreams.
CM Punk. CM Punk.
He's not coming
CM
back.
Punk. CM
He's
Punk.
not coming
CM Punk. What the hell are you talking about? Why not? I know he's not.
He's not coming
I know
back.
he's not. But if there was any way, because no one's talking about it, if any way Triple H could just bury the hatchet, go and say, listen, I got $2 million, 2-year deal. Here's what's going to happen.
I would lose my mind if he came back.
You're going to be featured this year. You're going to come out during the Goldberg-Lesnar match, and you know it could be a stale arm lock match, whatever's going on in that main event. You're going to come out at the end of the show and just stand there, and the crowd would erupt. And then for the next 2 years, you have CM Punk be the best in the world. Now you could have CM Punk feud with AJ Styles, with John Cena again. You could have CM Punk actually come back and be the dominant wrestler that WWE needs. That's the final piece, because everybody usually does come back. Why CM Punk thinks that a career in the UFC, listen, bury the hatchet. You know, you were burnt out. You felt like you were mistreated. Come back and be the best wrestler, because there's so many feuds that should happen. CM Punk has to come back.
You do realize that Triple H and Stephanie both absolutely hate him. Hate him.
I don't care.
And I understand money, but they absolutely hate him. There's too much pride with both McMahons, because Triple H is a McMahon. There's too much pride there. Vince can sit there and Vince can do whatever's best for business, right? You have seen it time and time again where Vince has brought guys back that you never thought would
Ultimate
ever.
Warrior, Hulk Hogan.
Jim Cornette is introducing the Midnight Express.
Jim Ross has been fired on nonstop.
I mean, insane, right? And Jim Cornette buries WWE and Vince McMahon regularly, but Vince understands that what's best for business, right? So I could see him bringing CM Punk back, but Triple H, and this is where the rub is. CM Punk hates Triple H. Triple H can't stand CM Punk.
That makes for great television.
Hates them as well.
That makes for great television, because then you introduce some of that realness to it. You go and you have CM Punk. Maybe the first thing he does at SummerSlam is out.
You mean writing like SmackDown does?
Yeah, exactly.
Where it's more shoot and less made up stuff?
You got it.
Yeah.
You come out there, and who's the only person?
Raw doesn't do that, though.
You want to hear somebody come out and say to Triple H, you know, the only reason why you're wearing that suit is because you're nailing the boss's daughter. And you tell me you don't blow off arenas with shoots and promos like that. Oh my gosh. You could be like, listen, you know, Vince is going to croak one day and you're going to take over this business. I cannot allow this business to happen this way. I'm coming here to ruin this plan of yours. You tried to nail the boss's daughter to get ahead, and I'm here to bring you down.
I would love it. I would take
I'm an amateur hack.
I would take my pants off and run around my entire neighborhood naked.
So
naked.
When Triple H hears this, you better bring back CM Punk in the next 2 years. Don't let the heat go, because I don't care what anybody says. The fans still remember him. They still chant his name.
Dude, I was screaming his name. I was screaming his name
at Raw.
Yeah.
We want to see CM Punk.
Whenever Triple H comes out, I scream it, because I can't stand seeing Triple H anymore, because he buries talent.
Good. The bottom six we can go through real quickly, because look at this.
Let's start with the kickoff show. Let's start with the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Okay.
Wasted talent. I cannot believe Braun Strowman and Sami Zayn are in this. Get the hell out of here.
Big Show as well. This is Big Show's last WrestleMania. Big Show's last WrestleMania. I have Big Show winning this because it's his last WrestleMania. Basically, all the talent that is not going to see the light of day, they're all going to be in this. And you can probably expect to see Finn Balor make an appearance here.
I would go with the Hype Man, and he seems to be on a roll lately. If he's in this thing, I'm going to go with the Hype Brothers guy.
Oh, Mojo Rawley?
Mojo Rawley.
Oh, God, no, please no.
Give me Mojo Rawley in this one. All right, a match that we both think is probably not worthy of being on the kickoff show, but it might be a main event type thing. But you could put him on the kickoff show and get the crowd real hot when they see this. Neville, Austin Aries. I think that Austin Aries goes over here, because Neville can be made a monster. He's on his own. He doesn't need a belt. You have Austin Aries, take down the belt, and you can have them still feud up until SummerSlam. So I'm going with Austin Aries in this one.
I agree with you 100%. Neville is so over right now. He doesn't need the championship. I think you put the championship on Aries. You let Aries sit there and ride that to the sky, and Neville will come along with him, and they'll sit there and, like you said, they will battle forever.
Tag Team Championship, you got Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson as the champions.
Wait, hold on. We got one more kickoff show.
Who's that?
We've got that six-pack challenge for the Women's Championship of SmackDown.
Oh.
So let's discuss that one real quick. So you've got Alexa Bliss. Now this is one that they've changed, and they left it open-ended because they weren't sure if Naomi was going to be able to come back or not. She appears to be healthy, especially after seeing what she did on SmackDown. So Alexa Bliss versus Natalya versus Carmilla versus Becky Lynch.
Who wins it? Tell me.
Versus Mickie James versus Naomi.
Sure.
Naomi's winning.
First piss break of the kickoff show. Naomi wins it in her hometown.
Yeah, she wins it in her hometown. They didn't want to take the championship off her in the first place, but I believe she had a meniscus tear, and she's back and she's healthy, so she wins this.
No doubt about it. All right. Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, Enzo Amore, Big Cass, and then Cesaro and Sheamus. You keep the belts on Gallows and Anderson, or you give it to Enzo and Big Cass for their hard work in this last year?
Enzo and Big Cass win this. It's a ladder match. I think you're going to end up seeing Enzo just get destroyed somewhere. It's what he does. He just goes out there and gets annihilated. Big Cass comes in with a boot, climbs the ladder, pulls the belts down. Enzo and Big Cass, they sit there and they tell everybody that they're soft.
Intercontinental Championship, Dean Ambrose, the champ of SmackDown, and Baron Corbin, a guy that probably is going to be elevated, but I think you still keep the belt on Ambrose in this one. A good match, one that you can still get over with Baron, but you don't give him the belt yet. Still too soon.
Exactly. Dean Ambrose has to win this, has to retain it. And Baron Corbin's not ready yet, doesn't do a good enough job on the mic, and I don't think he's good enough in the ring yet.
Chris Jericho, Kevin Owens, a feud that's been a year in the making. I'm just looking for a great wrestling match. I don't care who wins. You would think that if Chris Jericho is going to take some time off, do some music, travel, he's been going strong for the better part of the last 2 years. You give it to Kevin Owens, but you need to have this. This probably is going to be the match that probably steals the show.
I agree with you 100%. Look, Chris Jericho is phenomenal in and outside of the ring. Kevin Owens is great in and outside of the ring. Kevin Owens is going to take the belt because, like you said, Jericho's going to go away for a little bit.
Bayley's the champion. They're doing again with, I guess women can't fight one-on-one. We just got to stick 5 and 6 wrestlers in there.
Dude, this
and let's
is so
see
bad.
all, Bayley, Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks. You've added your girl, Nia Jax.
I can't
to the mix.
stand her, dude.
So
Honestly,
I don't care.
It's 35 pounds of shit crammed into a 20-pound bag. That's what I see whenever I see her. Not good at all. I can't stand her on the mic either.
Many people are expecting Sasha Banks to maybe turn heel in this situation, but whatever happens, I don't care. I'm not invested really right now in women's wrestling. So keep it on Bayley. She's got a great gimmick, but I don't think Charlotte Flair needs to be a 5-time world champion in 5 months.
Bayley wins. I agree with you. Bayley wins, but you do get your Sasha Banks heel turn.
All right, now one of the great promos that we saw this year happened on SmackDown, where John Cena responded to The Miz and Maurice's interpretation and making fun of them on.
Did you enjoy those?
Loved it.
I thought they were absolutely great.
They were all great. It's been a hyped up thing, but a lot of people are saying that John Cena and The Miz feud back in the time of WrestleMania 28, and they main evented that WrestleMania, and it was garbage. But this build up to this feud has been way better with the introduction of Nikki Bella and Maurice, and this match could be good. I'm hoping that the rumors that John Cena is going to propose to Nikki Bella doesn't happen because it seems contrived.
It happens.
It happens. I don't care who wins, but I do believe that The Miz and Maurice are going to put on a good show. John Cena and Nikki Bella. You feel like Cena and Miz could have fought without the girls, but with this matchup, I would say that you probably have Cena and Nikki Bella win it.
Cena and Nikki Bella win it. They'll probably win it with the STFU, and Nikki Bella's STFU is way better than John Cena's, which blows my mind. I don't know what we're going to get from Maurice. I've never seen her in the ring. I like The Miz. I think The Miz is a very good heel. I'm a huge John Cena fan. I pop so hard for John Cena all the time. I run around my house when his music comes on. Cena and Nikki Bella win. Cena proposes to Nikki Bella. I throw up a little bit in my mouth, and we move on.
Shane McMahon, AJ Styles. AJ has to go over. Shane McMahon's going to take a bunch of punishment. Everyone knows basically what's going to happen. AJ and Shane are going to go 15, 20 minutes. AJ's going to beat the hell out of Shane McMahon. He's going to have his hand raised, and we go forward. AJ Styles has to win this.
Enough said.
Triple H, Seth Rollins, non-sanctioned. This one's going to be tough to read because Triple H basically fights a handful of times a year. And if you go back and you watch WrestleMania 32, Triple H's match versus Roman Reigns wasn't that good. It was basically oversold and under-delivered. Triple H is a little bit slower, so he's going to do a lot of power moves. Seth Rollins, you don't know the nature of his the injury with his knee and how's it going to hold up. It's being titled a non-sanctioned match. On paper, it looks like a matchup that could be good, but you needed it basically a year ago. So I think in this one, you obviously have Seth Rollins go over, but maybe Triple H continues to work him and you continue the storyline a little bit longer. But in essence, I don't see a conclusion to this because it doesn't seem like a 1 month build-up for this type of feud is what you need, but I see Seth Rollins in this one.
The best thing about this is we finally got the Seth Rollins face turn. He basically sold it at the contract signing. This is something that they should have done when he first came back from his original knee injury. Look, I'd love to see Seth Rollins win this. I won't be surprised if Triple H wins it because he has a propensity to sit there and keep the talent underneath his thumb, and I absolutely hate it, and that's why I don't like seeing them on the TV screen. I don't like seeing them in these types of matches. I hope Seth Rollins wins. I want Seth Rollins to win, but again, not surprised if Triple H walks away the victor.
Undertaker, Roman Reigns, many people are probably going to be mad at this one.
Some of the laziest booking you've ever seen. If this is Undertaker's final WrestleMania and you booked it this way, you basically deserve to be fired. You deserve to be fired because you put nothing into this whatsoever. The most we got out of this was that weird video footage and that weird video package that we got on Monday, and that was basically it.
I think that this probably is the Undertaker swan song. You put over Roman Reigns, everyone's going to boo, everyone's going to be all pissed off, but in essence, this is what it is. Undertaker's going to put over Roman Reigns. We all boo, we all get mad. You're going to see, if you go on Twitter and use the hashtag Wrestlemania, you'll see all the fans, and they're crying about their hatred for Roman Reigns and how he's not worthy of this spot. But let's just move on, because I think we're both going to get mad regarding this one. Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton. I'm thinking that Bray Wyatt needs to hold on to this. I mean, Bray Wyatt's the champ. You can do a lot of things with him. You can have him feud with a lot of different guys on that SmackDown roster. Randy Orton's old, and you don't want him to win the championship at WrestleMania. You know, he's a guy that doesn't, again, he's a Hall of Famer, doesn't need the belt. Bray Wyatt is a guy that you think would hold on to this title in this matchup, and it could be a good one.
I think Bray Wyatt wins this. I think Eric Rowan comes in because he's now healthy. Don't be surprised.
Interference.
Don't be surprised if Luke Harper joins this melee as well. But I see Bray Wyatt winning it. I think we want Bray Wyatt to be the champion. I don't think Randy. Look, as good as Randy is in the ring, I think Randy chasing is much better than the belt being on Randy at this time.
Now, the main event, probably is going to be Goldberg, Brock Lesnar. If the match goes 120 seconds, I will be shocked. I think by that point, we'll be all tired. Maybe you have a gimmick with Finn Balor. Maybe you have something go on, but you realize Goldberg is leaving. This is it. This is it for him. You're going to have Brock Lesnar go over. Do you have it clean? Do you have a situation where there's some arm bars? I don't see a real slobber knocker here with rope action. I don't see stuff off the top rope. I don't see stuff going on outside. They both get in the ring, couple punches, boom, maybe a spear from Goldberg, maybe something where Brock Lesnar has something under his shirt and hurts Goldberg, but I don't know. 120 seconds.
Is that what we're putting the over-under on?
120 seconds.
Are you going over or are you going under?
I'm going under.
I'm going to go over.
You think so?
Yeah.
They're going to give us a match with this one? I don't
think they're going to give us a match, but I don't think it's going to be a squash either.
Okay.
So I'm looking at probably like a 5, maybe 7-minute match. And look, you want to keep Goldberg strong, right? Just in case you do bring him back at some point, somewhere down the line. So you don't want to expose him too much. Lesnar can't really wrestle himself. You don't want to expose him too much. So I think we get maybe a 3 to 5 minute match. Lesnar wins. Goldberg goes away for a while because his contract's now up. And we move on with our lives. And I think we hate the fact that Lesnar is now your champion because you just went from a part-timer to a part-timer. That maybe sets up for a guy like Finn Balor coming back. I love your idea for bringing CM Punk back. I just don't see that happening.
That would be great.
But
that'd be the shock. The big shock.
It would be. That would make this WrestleMania totally worth it.
No doubt about it. But overall, when you look at the card, like I said, it's top heavy. There's a lot of matches. It's going to be a long card, 4 hours. You got to pace yourself. And it's one of those things where when I look at it, I'm just going to tell myself, I'm going to have no expectation. I'm going to enjoy some of the matches, do some other things during the matches I don't want to see. And then the night after is the show you want to see. The Raw after WrestleMania is
That's always the best.
The wild-ass crowd. All right, good preview, sir. I know that whenever we get a chance to talk wrestling, it's a great conversation. Let's take our final time out, come back. Let's peek into whatever the hell these Detroit Tigers are doing, and the Detroit Lions are also making news as well. Stay with us. Second half of the podcast coming up.
Doc and Jock here for Fanatic U. If you're looking for some sweet sports swag and you love your Detroit teams, and I mean you really love your Detroit teams, you got to check out fanaticu.com and get the coolest gear out there and rock your Red Wing shirt, rock your Lions shirt, rock your Piston apparel. Wear it till the wheels fall off. Michigan State, you know what? They got it too. Check out Fanatic U. They have 6 locations all over Metro Detroit. Check them out, fanaticu.com.
Yeah, we coming now. Come on. Yeah, that's right. We put it down. It's like a family in here, just a little disabled. Putting it down, we lay them out on the table. Yeah. Who's in the house? The brothers in the house. Gotta turn it on out, let you know what we about. Kinda like Cain and Abel, a bit unstable. Don't be breaking the brain, break the whole damn table.
Yes, sir. Rolling along, episode 190, only 10 away from the magical 200. And that's not 190 over the span of 5 years. That's 190 consecutive Thursdays we've put out a Doc and Jock podcast, and I'm very proud of that mark. We're still sticking around. And real quickly, we do have to give credit to the Red Wings, 25 consecutive years in the postseason. We've talked about their trials and tribulations, and before we talk about the Tigers and Lions, we just have to give them credit. It was official on Tuesday. They were eliminated with their loss to the Carolina Hurricanes. They're not going to be part of the postseason. Likely the Pistons not as well. So April in the D takes on a whole new meaning in that there's going to be really one team playing, and that's the Detroit Tigers. They're going to get all the attention, all the scrutiny, and the offseason is going to start quicker for the Detroit Red Wings. But we have to give them a little bit of credit. 25 straight years. I was 13 the last time they missed the postseason. And I know that Ken Holland kind of said that it was going to be a tough year when he had that ridiculous press conference at the beginning of this year. But in the end, it has come down. I wasn't as bummed out because this was like a slow burn, because it wasn't like it was a drastic drop-off. We knew based upon the way this team was playing and the lack of point production that this team was getting, this was coming, and it happened, and I think it was treated in the way that it should have been. Everybody gave the Wings respect, from the NHL to all the reporters to ourselves. We just said, you know what, 25 years, you have one bad year, it's all good.
Yeah, it's still
going to be a problem in the future because the management stinks, but you got to give them credit for the 25 years.
Yeah, it was a nice
Clap,
run.
clap, golf clap.
Yeah,
Golf clap.
Nice run. Look, the way they handled a lot of this season really makes me mad. You're seeing the young talent really do a good job right now. I mean, Andre Athanasiou is sitting there tearing it up. Anthony Mantha's tearing it up. And you've got some young defensemen that make me hopeful for the future. And look, we could have had, again, hindsight's 20/20, but you could have had all this going on all season long, had these guys getting better, more experience, and instead you're kind of bringing everybody up and pushing everybody now the last half of the season when nothing really matters. And Riley Sheahan still can't score, but he's still pulling down a ton of ice time. None of it makes sense.
All right, with the Detroit Tigers, I know that the season's going to start Monday on the road versus the White Sox. Verlander takes the mound. There's still a lot of question marks with this team, but let's start with some positive news, I guess. We'll say that Rich Doobie has done some work, got in the lab with Anibal Sanchez and said, listen, we got to fix whatever the hell's wrong with you and your delivery's off. Let's move your arm angle a little bit, away from your head. Let's see what comes of this. And since then, Anibal Sanchez has looked decent, and I'm very proud that the organization has recognized that no, this, move is not worthy of putting Anibal Sanchez in the starting rotation. Hell no. So they've told him he's now aware he's a bullpen guy. And I say, great. He's looked a lot better recently, but not good enough to stick him out there every fifth day. And the moves that they've made with Mark Lowe, sending Blaine Hardy down to the minors, I'm down for it. And the way I look at it with the Detroit Tigers, I'm excited for the start of the year. With the Pistons and Wings struggling, now our focus can be on the intricacies of this Tigers team. And so far, I'm seeing the evaluations going well. There's one position, though, that I'm not certain the evaluation has taken place properly, and that's at center field, and we'll talk about that. But with what's going on with Sanchez, Lowe, and Blaine Hardy and some evaluations, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the fact that they were able to recognize that Matt Boyd deserves to be the fifth starter, you give him that spot. Anibal Sanchez, you have him come out of your bullpen, have him be your long relief guy. Now what they have to do is they've got to release Mike Pelfrey, eat that contract, and just get him off the books. Look, bad signing. What are you going to do, right? I mean, do you hurt this team by keeping that guy around? I think you'd be foolish if you did that. Just release him. He's not going to get picked up by anybody. Nobody wants that guy. He's basically a bum. His career's over. So just move on with it. As far as Anibal Sanchez goes, I like the fact that they're putting him in the bullpen and they're going to sit there, use him as that long relief. Like I said, what I would look to do is I would try to trade him. I would let him come out, make a couple, come out, just do his thing out of the long relief position, whatever it is. Hopefully he looks good, and then I would try to sit there and flip him. I'd flip him for some low draft picks, whatever. You want to get out from underneath that contract. He's getting paid way too much money. Send him somewhere else. Get out from underneath it. That's what I would try to do.
Now, the news that came out that made everybody laugh, and I don't know how they could put information like this out, seriously, but maybe we're wrong. But from the eye test, how on earth do you think that Anthony Goetz is going to transition from a position player to a pitcher for a team that's desperate for a pitcher? You think Anthony Goetz is going to come out here and make the starting lineup as a pitcher in starting rotation? Hell no. You think you want to put a position player in a bullpen that many people are laughing at? I saw that when I saw that in the paper, the first thing I did was just laugh out loud. I just thought, this is ridiculous. If you want to do that, Do it privately. Why would you announce that?
Dude, you know he's Rafael Soriano or Joe Nathan, right?
Oh my God,
He threw 97.
Okay.
He threw 97.
Okay, great.
Had no movement.
Right.
But so he fits in perfectly with his bullpen.
Exactly.
You
So
just
he fits
throw
in.
hard, no movement. You can't place the ball anywhere. Look, man, he's gonna fit right in with this bullpen. Don't you worry about it. No, he's gonna sit there. He's gonna play outfield, but he's also gonna take some time, work as a pitcher. And I think you're right. We both were a little bit taken aback. We both were like, what? What? Are you serious?
Anthony goes great. Good luck with your transition.
Yeah, I don't see it helping. I don't know if this guy ever plays in the major leagues again.
Yeah, it's one of those things
It's an
where
awful trade.
great. If he's going to be a pitcher, let him go somewhere else and experiment. We don't need experiments right now. We need total deconstruction, total reconstruction with the Detroit Tigers. But
Blow them all up, dude. Blow it all up.
well, do you think that JD Martinez's injury is going to significantly affect the Tigers to start the year? I know it's not a good look when you have a guy that you expect to be productive not starting on opening day, but he's placed on the DL for about a month, and it looks like the Tigers outfield is going to be a committee type thing, and you know Justin Upton is going to be the anchor, and maybe Romine gets to start in center field every day, and it's just one of those things where you look at it, maybe Moya can figure out how the hell to play the outfield. I don't think so. I think we're going to see some gaffes and some GIFs, you know, those GIFs that we all love on our Twitter page. And I just think that defensively, it might be an issue with JD gone at this point in time to start the year.
I'm expecting Jacoby Jones to take over center. I'm expecting a little bit of a platoon out there and right between Tyler Collins, Mikey Matuk.
The Ravens wide receiver is going to play for the Tigers?
You heard about that, eh? They were in Atlanta and the broadcasters.
Google it.
The broadcasters got everything wrong. Not good. But no, I'm expecting Jacoby Jones to get the first crack at center. They want to see what he can do. I think, plus he's shown that he can hit the ball and he can play the position through spring training. Tyler Collins, like I said, takes over right until JD comes back. When JD comes back, you're going to have to make some decisions. But Mikey Matuk, I think, is going to be the backup. He was the guy who I had figured would end up getting the starting job in center. Hasn't really played really well through spring training. Hasn't been able to hit the ball. Jacoby Jones looks like he belongs. So I'm giving him the nod in center. And I think when Martinez does come back, Jacoby Jones holds down center. I think Tyler Collins, Mikey Matuk, they're your platoon players. You know, they'll give you a rest and days off here and there.
Are you excited for the start of this year with the Tigers? I know we haven't talked about it a whole heck of a lot. We've looked at the moves and things like that, but just in general, for me, it's similar to the way the Pistons were and the way the Red Wings were, where the season's coming. We kind of have an idea where this team fits around a mid-80 win team. If they get lucky, if they acquire one guy or one or two more guys produced than we think could be effective, they could make a run. But again, as we sit here in late March, what I see is a long up and down 162 game stretch from now until October. But when we record a podcast in October, I'll replay this. And what will happen is a team that's really close, but not in the postseason. And will they recognize that it's the time to TANK, the theme of this podcast, tank? But I don't see that happening. I see a team grasping on for that one last run, and the Red Wings got punched in the face. The Pistons are getting punched in the face. When will the Detroit Tigers wake up and realize that if you don't tank, everything will continue to stank? That's just the way it is, and they're not willing to pull the plug and start over. When are they going to realize it, brother?
Probably after this season.
When we mail them a copy of the last 4 years of podcasting going, these stupid podcasters have told you need to rebuild, sell.
See, here's the thing, right?
Well, first, are you excited about the year?
Yes and no, right? This season reminds me of a lot of ifs and buts, right? So if this happens, but this has to happen, there's so many loose ends, right? So you're going to basically need Michael Fulmer to come out and do what he did last year. That's expecting a lot. You're going to need JV to come out and basically pitch like he pitched last year. That's expecting a lot. You're going to need Daniel Norris to take a step forward. And if you looked at what his last start in spring training provided, that's going to be dangerous. So again, lots of ifs and buts. You need Jordan Zimmerman to remain healthy. More ifs and buts. You need Matt Boyd to sit there and show something. You know, I'm not concerned about Miguel Cabrera. I know Miguel Cabrera was a big point of contention for you last season. Doesn't bother me. I think Miguel Cabrera is just fine. Victor Martinez, I'm not necessarily worried about him. He's old, another year older. His knees are absolutely atrocious, but again, he enters this year healthy, looks good. JD Martinez has me worried. So you need that bat to be alive. On top of that, he's a piece that if you are in the cellar come the halfway point of the season, he's a guy that you could possibly trade away and get something for. So, again, a lot of ifs and buts with the season. I'm apprehensive going into it.
Apprehensive. That's a good word. Yeah, there's still a lot of question marks. I do think that Brett Ausmus probably will make some improvements as a manager. Everybody's kind of going to be performing the same way, but we have a lot of hopes and worries because you can't afford too many injuries, and everything has to click right in order for this team to have success because the Indians, they're in the fast lane, and we're in the middle lane trying to get over, and it's really tough to catch up to the Indians because they're going 90, and we're trying to go 70 with some parts that maybe aren't as mobile as other parts. And it looks like for me, second, third place finish overall is where I see them. 85, 86 wins. I think it's going to be up and down year. There will be periods of time where we think this is the greatest team ever, but there will be periods of time where we definitely will be calling for Brett Ausmus's head. And I hope you guys follow along with Vito in the Tigers Talk podcast. He's definitely in tune, and that kid can just, you ask him a baseball question, you got great 10, 12 minutes of content. And stay with Doc and Jock as well as we provide uncensored talk regarding the 2017 Detroit Tigers season. And you all know we keep it real in an uncensored way, and we're not going to sugarcoat anything. All right, last topic with the Detroit Lions. When I look at it, and each and every day I turn on the news, I watch what's going on with the Detroit Lions, it's all good for me. I mean, I see what Bob Quinn's doing. I see the potential for improvement on this squad. I see that there is an organizational structure. I feel like the team is doing as much as they can to improve Ford Field with the Wi-Fi, with the overall game experience, with improving it. I know they're taking it from the fans, not from me because my wall's closed. I'm trying to watch from afar in the comforts of my own home. But hey, if people are going to pay for the improvements and the Lions are going to charge it, hey, we can't fight it any longer. That's just the way it is. People are going to pay it. The Lions are going to charge it. The biggest thing that people, I think, are talking about around the water coolers is what the hell are the Lions going to do at running back? And you go, there's some free agents out there that you could potentially sign, like an Adrian Peterson, like a LeGarrette Blount. Others out there say, no, focus on the draft, maybe with a Mixon. Maybe you look at the first round with the running backs, Dalvin Cook. Overall, for me, I would say that you don't want to go in free agency to look for your running back, and especially not somebody around the age of 30 years old, because this is not a plug-and-play team where you just say, okay, we're one running back away from ultimate success. So for me, I just look at it and I say, look in the draft. If it's Dalvin Cook, if it's Leonard Fournette, if it's a guy like a Mixon, I'm not really down for that, but if you can get someone else that can fill that position, I say running back needs to be addressed in the draft. Say no to AP all day.
It's become blatantly obvious that Bob Quinn wants a running back. He's not.
We need a running back.
He's not happy with Theo Riddick.
We're desperate.
He's not happy with Amir Abdullah. So anticipate them getting a running back, whether it's through free agency or through the draft. I'm right there with you in lockstep. Go to the draft, get your running back there. If you want Dalvin Cook in the first round, okay, I guess, right? I would sit there and I would probably take a shot at Joe Mixon. Word on the street is Leonard Fournette is better than Ezekiel Elliott. And you know how good Ezekiel Elliott was last year. According to some scouts, he is better. He is better. So do you trade up and do you go get Leonard Fournette? I probably would not. Look, go into the draft, do your due diligence, and get your running back there. I'd probably take a shot at Joe Mixon, second round-ish.
Jason and I were sharing memories on the Motor City Sports Rant podcast. Comes out every Tuesday. And he said, when the Lions took Eric Ebron, we were in class, and Adam basically took his computer and threw it out the window. So what are the chances?
I was so mad.
April 27th, 2017, first-round pick that you will be happy. Because it seems like in the history of this podcast, when that draft pick has been announced,
I'm never happy.
I'm like, oh, we got this guy. You're like, fuck. And I'm like, come on, man, it's not that bad yet. And you're like, no, this is not the guy. And you basically redrafted on our website each and every year and said, this is what they should have did. But in essence, what are the percentage?
Usually I'm right.
What are the percentage chances you'll be happy April 27th, 2017 with the Detroit Lions?
You know what? I like Bob Quinn. I think Bob Quinn knows what he's doing.
51%.
Yeah. I'm gonna say probably closer to 70% that I'll be happy with the draft pick. And here's why. I think there's a lot of talent in this draft. And just kind of looking at what is falling in and around where the Lions will be picking, I like a lot of the guys that are attached to them. I'm not upset if they go and they grab a running back. I wouldn't do it, but I'm not upset about it. Like if Dalvin Cook's there, I'm okay with it. If for some reason Leonard Fournette falls out of the top 10 and ends up near 21, I'm okay with that. You know, I don't want them drafting a wide receiver. I'll probably lose my mind if they draft a wide receiver. There's a ton of defense in this draft that will help this team out. And I think that's where their first round pick is at. I think it's on defense, whether it be a linebacker or along that defensive line. But I'm pretty confident that I'm going to be okay with whatever Bob Quinn selects because there's a ton of talent this year.
Yeah, and scouring the landscape of the interwebs, I seen Dane Brugler's CBS Sportsline mock draft. I came across it and I was like, come on, you cannot, as a person that is evaluating the draft and the talent and looking at what the Lions have, and he has Jabril Peppers being taken by the Lions in the first round, number 21. I look at it and I go, it's not something that I would do. I understand that, Jabril is definitely trying to hype himself up, saying he's the steal of the draft. I don't agree. I think you need a guy that's ready-made if you're going to go with a defensive player.
Can I give you a few reasons why he would fit at 21? To just kind of maybe comfort you and soften that blow. Because I don't think Jabril Peppers would be the best fit at 21. I think there are other guys out there that you could get, but he's a playmaker, right? I don't know if he's necessarily a game changer, but he can fill a lot of positions and play a lot of different roles. He can be a return guy for you, so automatically your special teams is better. He can play strong safety for you, so your defense is better, especially your back four. If you need to bring him up, he can play in the nickel or he can play in the dime, and he can sit there and he's not afraid to tackle guys. That's the one thing. Sometimes guys who are slight build like him, they're afraid to tackle guys. He has no problem sticking his nose in there and making a play. He can cover guys too as well, And look, tight end killed this team last year. You can move him up on the line. He can cover a tight end. So I think if you were to draft him, he would make your team better immediately. The thing is, there's a guy like Taco Charlton who goes at 22. I would much prefer having Taco Charlton, and you pair him with Ziggy Ansah, and you've got your bookend DNs, and you just sit there and you go cause havoc. That's what I would like to do. Do you want me to give you some highlights from Dane Brugler's mock draft, though?
You got it.
All right, so number 1, Myles Garrett goes to the Browns, and I don't think it's... And I think he's going to be the number 1. He's the overall number 1 consensus pick. He will get drafted by the Browns and make their defense better. Your boy Leonard Fournette goes at number 8 to the Panthers. A guy that both of us were keeping an eye on, Reuben Foster, linebacker out of Alabama, goes to the Bengals. Pretty much every mock draft you look at now, he's going to the Bengals at number 9. Western Michigan product, Corey Davis, goes at number 10 to Buffalo. Derek Barnett, he's a guy who's been attached to the Lions. He's a DN. He goes to the Saints at 11. Christian McCaffrey, probably the most complete running back, goes number 14 to the Eagles, so that makes Vinny very happy. Michigan State product, Malik McDowell, goes number 17 to the Redskins. Delvin Cook, another running back who it's been bantied about that maybe the Lions will take him, goes at number 19 to the Bucks. Again, Jabril Peppers goes at 21 to the Lions, and Taco Charlton goes 22 to the Dolphins. So very interesting. I'm not a huge guy. I'm not huge on Peppers. I think there are other guys who can make more of a necessary impact on this team, but I understand the logic in going out and getting Peppers. And I think he could come in and I think he could help out. And I think you wouldn't see his impact until probably year 2, maybe year 3.
All right, to end the podcast, lots of news and notes regarding the NFL, and the rich keep on getting richer regarding the NFL. And you know that when the owners decide that, hey, yeah, let's let a franchise just leave a city that has already had a team leave before, and to have it happen again, you know that some dollars are taking place. And you read the report where one owner is set to make around $50 million off another team moving. So when the rich get richer, you realize that, okay, the fan base will always get screwed, and it's tough for the Oakland fan base to really sit well with this and to not have them move it right away. They're going to have to sit with it for a year or two. And so it got me to thinking a little bit, and I asked Jason, I've asked people, I'm like, if the Lions were ever to move, maybe, for a year or two, I would be really bummed out, but maybe in year 3 or 4, I'd maybe eventually come to terms with it because other teams have had it. Cleveland's had it. You now have 3 teams in 1 year have
we
their
get the
franchise
Michigan Panthers back.
Let me ask you
those in those sweet jerseys.
Let me ask you the question I asked Jason. I said, well, if you knew that the Lions were going to have a team that potentially could be a Super Bowl caliber team like Baltimore, whether it be 5 or 10 years from now, could you go 3 seasons without Lions football? If the Lions were to move and you knew that they were going to come back and have a championship caliber team through expansion, or maybe you get a team like, another team that moves, like if somehow or another, Jacksonville gets built up and they want to move and they come to Detroit, would you take 3 or 4 years without Lions football to have success later on.
So am I Baltimore in this or am I Cleveland in this? Because Cleveland ends up getting a team and they're still garbage.
No, you're the Ravens, obviously.
Baltimore and Cleveland ends up moving to Baltimore.
Baltimore has success.
Yeah, goes on to win a couple Super Bowls.
Yep.
Could I deal with that?
3 seasons without Lions football, but they come back as an expansion team and have some success.
Would they be the Lions again? Would the Fords own them?
Yeah, probably. I don't think the Fords are going to let go of the
really
team.
difficult for me.
It's just in essence.
Okay, here's the thing: if the Fords still own them and they come back as the Lions, no, I want nothing to do with them.
Okay.
You have scorned me. Screw you. I will go find another team.
Gotcha.
All right.
Gotcha.
If they come back as say the Michigan Panthers, and we'll just say Dan Gilbert owns them, I'm all aboard. Riding the train.
It's about ownership.
I'm sitting there, I'm waving the flag out in front.
Yeah.
And I got my purple and I got my cream jersey on, and I'm pumped.
Okay, now the final question I want to ask you is:
I was totally waving a flag for those who are in studio looking at me.
do you think there will be problems with having a Las Vegas hockey team, a Las Vegas football team, because everybody's knowing that, okay, we got to start preparing these athletes. We got to have symposiums. They're going to hire the doc to be like, listen, when you have temptation, when there's a woman who's like a 10 and you look like, Ezekiel Ansah, no offense, they don't necessarily...
You climbed out of a bell tower.
They don't necessarily want you for your looks. Please be aware of the ladies of the night of Las Vegas, that the guy that's a photographer, no, is not a photographer. This is the guy that's going to blackmail you, Mr. Ansah. Sorry I used you, but if a woman comes up to you, Ezekiel, it's not really because she's down with you. She's down for your wallet. So this is the lesson that I would give. And I'd have some role plays, and I'd say, listen, yes,
role plays.
Definitely take your team off the strip. Stay somewhere far, far away, because in the talks with the fellas and on other podcasts, I've said within a year or two, you're going to hear some mess.
Oh, yeah.
Mess.
There's going to be something that comes out.
I said more women than gambling. Not the gambling. It's going to be the women and the hustlers, the dirty people that kind of, Spearmint Rhino will be in the news. Other places of those of the like will be in the news pretty quickly once those teams start operations.
Absolutely.
Make it rain at the Spearmint.
So, look, it totally perplexes me because I never thought we'd see the day that we would have teams in Las Vegas. I never, ever thought that this day would come. It's here. We're going to have a hockey team. We're going to have a football team. We're going to hear stuff in the news. And you're right. It'll probably surround Spearmint Rhino. Did you hear that... the guy who owns, the Bunny Ranch out there in Las Vegas?
Oh, God. No, I didn't think about that. What happened?
So he owns basically a whorehouse.
Legally.
Yeah, legally. It's in Reno, so it's...
How do you know that?
Goes, I heard it on the radio today.
Very good.
So he wants to open up a Raiders-themed burlesque house. Basically a whorehouse.
Nice.
And it's all Raiders-themed.
I did hear it in
So
passing, yes.
How nuts would that be? Like, if you're a Raiders fan... Do you want to go there? Do you want to hang out with basically chicks who are dressed up like Raider cheerleaders and who are down for the pound? Whatever you want to do, however you want to do it, they'll do it. You just got to have the money. That's weird, man. That's crazy. I never in a million years thought we would see the day where this is coming to light. But yeah, you're right. These teams and these players are going to have to go through numerous symposiums, and you're going to have to keep your head. You can't be an idiot. If I'm Mark Davis... or I'm the guy who owns the Las Vegas hockey team, you can't draft stupid players. You've got to have a locker room that is strong, absolutely strong, because there's going to need to be leadership to keep most of these guys on the straight and narrow. Because, look, Las Vegas is fun, man. I love going. I've gone a couple times, and every time I go, I always get in a little bit of trouble. Never in a lot, but always in a little bit. So
in 12 months, man, the news cycle, and you can hear it here. We don't have to censor anything. If any news comes out and anything like that, you don't have to hear anything censored. We'll play it, air it, dissect it. But within 12 months, I see problems, and no matter what, knucklehead. Listen, the temptation's too great. I can't even sit up here and say that if I was a high-priced athlete making $5 million a year and I got a check for $5 million as a bonus to sign my name, that I'm not going out to Vegas just to see what the hell that life is like. Where you just walk into a room and they're like, "That's John. He's a 4, but let's go see what he's about." And I'll be like, "Yeah, baby, what's going on? I got me a Bentley. Let's go check it out. Let's go talk and have some coffee, and see what's going on." But, they just have to be careful. And I just would have a no cell phone policy. If you want to hang out, you just can't bring any phones.
That's right.
And no fellas. I don't care about your male entourage there. Just me and you, and we'll hang out and, talk correctly about politics and healthcare.
Politics and healthcare?
We'll talk about politics and healthcare.
Okay.
All right, bro. Great podcast. This is one of my more enjoyable ones with you.
This is probably the longest one ever.
It's up there. We know, actually, the one with Dennis at number 99 was 2 hours and 5 minutes long.
We talked to him for 2 hours?
It was 2 hours. It was an hour about fantasy and an hour about other stuff, too.
Oh, really?
It's the longest one we've done. 2 hours. So
I was hoping we'd crack that.
No, we're at an hour and 36, and it's a good show.
Maybe a little bit more.
A little bit more.
Once we put some breaks in there.
No. I think maybe a commercial here or there, but then I'll edit out half of the stuff that you say.
Oh well,
No doubt about it,
that's
right?
normal. It's normal.
For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Stay tuned for next week's episode where we recap and see how close we are. I think you realize kind of where we were. You can just go off of what you wanted with WrestleMania. We can see how many of the matches we got right of the 12, and we'll break it down. And we'll definitely talk about the news and notes regarding the week that was for the Detroit Tigers. And we'll continue on with the project, brother.
Let's go Tigers. Opening day right around the corner.
See everybody next week. Thanks for downloading.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me.